Welcome back. I'm here this morning to introduce a number of very talented remote viewers. Just trying to time this just right so that the episode ends and this should funnel folks right into the episode, hopefully. So, right now, I am going to bring people in. I'm going to start with Daz. Daz, welcome.
Hi there, nice to see you again.
You want to start? Looks like Susan's here too. So you want to start introducing the remote viewers one by one? You'll just say the name, and then I'll just bring them on.
Yeah. Let's go with Carl first.
Hi.
Hey, Carl.
Hi.
And then alphabetical order, we'll go with Dimi.
Hello, guys. Thank you for the invite. Thank you very
Dimi.
much.
And last but not least, Susan.
Hi. There you go.
Hi, Susan.
Welcome, Susan. Welcome, everyone. And do you want to just, Daz? Do you want to just pull up the?
Yep. So the project, I'll pull up the project here. Bear with me. Present. Share screen. Share screen.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Daz, you who do you want to start with, or who you're starting with, and we can just go through.
What I'll do is I'll show some pages from your guys' RV, and if you want to lead the way and move me to anything in particular you feel you want to go through. But Sean, I just want to say for the first time, this is actually the first time all four of us like this have worked a project together. So
That's right.
It's an interesting state of affairs here because like Susan's new to the working with me and Dimi and Carl, so none of us as remote viewers and project managers have actually all worked together before as well. This is the very first time on this project,
and it's a kind of an interesting project too. So for folks who weren't redirected into this live stream from the second part of the videos, first there's two videos. If you go to the Through a Glass Darkly podcast, the first one, the thumbnail is just titled Operation Kingfisher, and then the second one just premiered right now, and hopefully folks were redirected into this live stream, was The Thing, where we talked a little bit about the entity that was here. But the remote viewing, if you can see here, was after a joint discussion between Daz and Sean. This was kind of the target. The coordinates, and these are not geospatial coordinates, were 2603131. I want to emphasize that that's all everyone on this particular video had. That's it. That's all they got. They didn't get anything else. And the target was a sentient, non-human biological life and related technology. It was globally final U.S. destination. A past event. This was the target was the last U.S. crash retrieval, and by last I mean the latest. So this is the information that was derived from this remote viewing. So Daz, what else did you want to add?
That's it for at this point. All the viewers weren't this blind, as you said. They only had that coordinate. We did do several passes, meaning that they came back with their information, and yourself and me, we looked at it and we went back to them, but we did it in a non-leading way. So we would go back to them and say, "You had a sketch on page 6. Give us more information," or something similar to that. And they went back several times, and each time they went back, they came back with more and more detailed information for us.
All right, who did you want to start with first, Daz?
The reports in alphabetical order, so let's go with that. We have to say as well that there were 2 other viewers involved in this, David and Josh, but they're both on family holidays right now, so they couldn't be here to go for their remote viewing this evening. So we can go through some of Carl's first. Carl, is there anything you want me to look at in particular, or shall I just scan through it and then you?
No, because I mean, I've definitely got that electromagnetic energy of a craft. And then I had that very strange sort of local creature that were emanating blue. And
Okay,
that's
so
what I had too. Yeah.
if we show you the pages here, if you want to go through any of it,
Yeah,
you're talking about biological here.
yeah, that's right. That very strange sort of creature in charge somehow. And then the craft, so it's got that magnetic feeling when it's the extraterrestrial crafts or whatever they are. It always has a strange kind of glossy magnetic energy feeling. So, yeah, if you keep going, then I think I'm drawing where it is because it feels as though it's inside the earth somewhere. And there's a frequency as well. So there's a very strange light effect and frequencies.
So
The
that's
air
your first section,
domes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you went back. This is where you detail. So this is the summary here, where you're just detailing the biological
Yeah.
field, like illuminated and everything. And then we sent you back, and this is a
Yeah.
summary
And
of your data again here.
yeah, because somewhere there I said it feels like we're looking for a man-made construction, the location of that. So you sent me back to that and said, tell me more about that.
Yes.
So I described it a bit more. I said it was smooth, white, plasticky, closed in, curving, reflective. And there's a location with a structure, reflective, watery. But there's something that I went into here because there's energy. There's like, I don't know what it, maybe it's like a control thing.
Stop
Yeah,
me if you
that's
see it in
definitely,
your data here.
yeah, that's inside it.
Yeah.
But I was, yeah, keep going. That's where it is. That's the mountain. That's right. That's what I drew
The
there.
location. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you keep going there, it feels to me like it's, oh, there's the creature. But it felt to me like there's like a control center or a power stone or something that's where it's getting energy. There.
This is all creature stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Then you more biological data here.
Yeah. Yeah, I got lots of description, but I was left with the this blue energy, and I was really amazed to see the blue in other people's sessions too. That was really nice.
Yeah, there was lots of
What do
detail
you
about
think
it.
the blue? What do you think the blue represents?
Blue skin,
Okay.
blue emanating blue energy or blue frequency. It definitely seemed to be a blue creature with a very strange sort of loping gait. And when you try and draw it, yeah, you see I couldn't get the mouth. There's the eyes and strange elongated head, but I couldn't draw a mouth. So anyway.
That's interesting because I actually just talked to Jason Sands yesterday. The entity that he had an encounter with was very much kind of whitish, but it had like a blue tint to it. So again, that was a different incident. That was, that encounter was near the Area 51 kind of Groom Lake facility, but who knows if it could be the same sort of species or whatever non-human entities could have been encountered in this last crash retrieval.
Yeah.
I thought all this data from you, Carl, was very good. When you talk about the biological here and even the clothing and everything.
Yeah.
And you also said here you felt it was part of a time experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they must. there must be some way of bending time to do that kind of traveling. So you always feel it, the strange, sense of time when you go and remote view them.
I also like the fact that you were picking up on all this frequency stuff as well, experimenting with frequencies. I thought that was very interesting, and that came up several times in the sessions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's definitely something going. I mean, they must be using frequencies and to do time traveling. That's when I say magnetic energy, it's like the frequency.
Yeah.
Well, presumably, if you're bending space time, right, you're warping space time to bring your target closer to you by compressing it ahead of you and expanding it behind you. And then I think that's where you get this blue shift, right? You have like a gravitational red shift behind you and a gravitational blue shift in front of you, or it may be actually I think it might be vice versa, but you get like a blue shift from along the frequency spectrum. So it's totally in line in how you would imagine. And if you believe that there's some sort of relationship between electromagnetism and gravity, right, there would be some sort of a frequency shift to make that happen.
I also like it here that him saying he's involved in a semi-illegal activity. There's something going on.
Yeah. When you were doing the RV, did you have a sense that this was a non-human when you were viewing the life?
Yeah, normally with that strange sort of gait and this translucent skin, you can feel, but it didn't feel nasty, right? I don't know if we need to ask the others. Sometimes you get a real sense of nastiness. This one didn't feel.
By the way, when you mentioned that strange gait, that's the same sort of thing that Jason Sands described. He said this person was running, or this entity was running, but it felt like he was on the verge of falling the way that he was running. He was kind of like leaning into the, into the wind, and he was really struggling, it seemed, as if, and again, this is just me adding my own analytical overlay, you could call it, but it was as if he was struggling much harder against our gravitational well than, say, a human might. So it kind of seems kind of consistent. Maybe it's the same species. We'll never know, right, because of the nature of this, but it's very consistent with what Jason Sands described in a separate incident.
Excellent. Okay, so we've gone through some of Carl's stuff. Is there anything else you want to highlight, Carl, on any of this?
No, that's fine.
Does the audience have any questions for Coral? I'll ask a few questions just to give them a chance to spin up. But in terms of when you were actually first got this target, Coral, did you get a sense that it was kind of a crash retrieval and kind of going through and viewing what entities that they may have recovered?
When you're remote viewing, you have absolutely no idea what it is. I mean, I still don't understand what I was viewing, but I was viewing something, and I know how to recognize that strange energy on the craft. There's something that I'm drawn to. I love, really, really interested in how the energy structure works. So if it happens to me in a session that I come across one of these craft, I just go straight in. It's I'm very attracted to it. And then the creatures, they're strange. Sometimes you get a real sense of horror, and sometimes you get a sense of like compassion or this one was like loping strangely, poor thing. So I don't know.
All right, here's the first, I think, relevant question to your particular remote viewing. Any ideas of the life cycles of these beings or the being that you observed?
I have no idea, and it's not something I looked at. Yeah, I believe it must have been young, probably. It didn't feel old. It had this pale, translucent skin. It didn't feel old. It felt uncoordinated, but it definitely didn't feel old.
And the next question, did you, Coral, or any of the other viewers feel the entity detected your presence, or did anyone else feel that their presence was detected?
I don't know. What about you girls? I didn't. It didn't notice me. I think it was like really involved in what it was doing to be noticing me. There was a lot going on for it, so no.
Did anyone else have?
Not in my
feel
part
that?
also, not in my part, but I sense sometimes some, maybe in other targets I've got this feeling of being sensed by that entity or whatever it is. But I think it was only one time, so not in these sessions at all.
Okay. All right. Daz, take it away in the next one.
Yeah, okay, Dimi. So I'm gonna put yours up on screen here.
Yeah.
And then we'll skim through it and tell me if you want me to stop on anything.
Well, let me stop on the first page, this one, because if you can make it bigger, yeah, thank you. I just want to make the resume of what I find in my first session. So I've jumped from the start at the life form that I felt very, very interesting. I felt it was an energy. It was happening in a natural way, in a natural environment. It was also structural, man-made involved. And my focus to this target was and felt like it was a life form confined in a space. It was concentrated. It was having something like an aura, an energy field around, something that was enveloping this life form, cold, misty energy. For me, it's kind of like whitish, bluish color, this cold, misty energy. It was the structure where it was, this life form was kind of multi-level, compartmented. I cannot see anymore. That's myself. Thank you. But I felt also it was like an it, and when I'm saying it was an it was a made up thing. It was not necessary a being like us. It was not necessary something artificial. It was something in between these forms. So I call it like an it. So it was created, intelligent, powerful, deceiving, responding to local action and energy. And that strange thing, and this ran in all my sessions, it was like having a wave and also particle characteristic, like moving in between those states accordingly to the need or to the agenda that that entity was having it. It was hard to pin down. It was confined in a sealed space, and of course, it can be anything. It can morph in anything, from energy, from matter. It can be a ball of energy, a smoky type, a gooey, a being, a whatever. It felt gravitational, electromagnetic, and concentrated. And overall, the context seemed to be a common project from a group of human males dressed in black, and it's strange, men in black, of course, which are discussing and planning around the table. So maybe there are the people who are involved in retrieval or whatever, controlling that entity. So you can move. Yeah, thank you. So this is my first time when I've got this ideogram. I know that it's really strange for people who don't know about remote viewing, but this ideogram with a life confined in an energy field and being blocked there. That was my first sensation. Of course, I decoded in a simple way, like from Gestalt, like land, natural energy, life form. And at some point, I felt it was intangible and an idea of another dimensions or times, change or something like this. And it felt like this life form was inside the bubble energy and has something like aura, exactly like Coral said. It was inside a structure. We can move down, Daz. Again, I try my ideogram, and again, this life was confined to a space, to a place. And it is my first time when I when I'm looking to a ideogram like this in my session, and I've got a lot of them. So structure again, something soft, misty, like an energy, and man-made, and an AOL which ran again for my all for my entire session as a co-creation, an idea of co-creation. And for the third time, I've got again an eerie silence. I got again this life ideogram, which was felt like it was co-created, artificial, and in a natural environment. And of course, I sense energy here. Yes, you can go. It was natural outside. It was misty, airy, hot outside, but cold inside. Somewhere inside, I felt it was inside, entrapped somewhere. And smell of moldy or rotten or humid stale sensation. But as subdimensional energy, I've got a powerful personal emotion and like a ghost or a thought form, that energy in between life and something else.
Yeah.
And the structure, I think it was vertical, triangular, parallelepiped, semi-hard, misty again with the energy. And I felt an anguish, really powerful anguish. And again, I draw my life in a structure inside some compartmentalized structure. I felt it was energetic. For me, to say the truth, I've got a powerful OL as from Skinwalker Ranch, the mansion there, I don't know what it's called. I remember next. I think it was that old house with an eerie energy, with a very dark and negative energy, and it felt like this structure was up above the ground level and down somewhere with stairs and I will follow up with labyrinth. It was that life form inside. It felt like a crime scene for me. This thing. Yes.
I mean, it kind of was, right? It's a crash, right? So you have people you talked about the people in dark suits that are trying to recover
exactly
the craft, is presumably what it may have been.
Trying
and then
to
they're taken to this
decode.
place. Yeah.
So in this cube, this cube was like full of dark energy. Oh, exactly like I have an OL as a homestead too from Skinwalker Ranch. So a place, powerful dark energy inside, really, really powerful. And it was vertical, overpainted, enclosed, dark, creepy. I think at this point I drifted away to the homestead idea, but then I came back to the point of the life form again. And I've got this sensation of a life crawling inside something. And my idea was like a caterpillar moving, but these parts of the caterpillar, as you see, the elements, was melting one near to each other and then trying to make like a bigger thing from the little ones. And I will decode in the next files this one. Again, the idea that it was when I moved to the life form in the bubble, it was energetic and entrapped. It felt like magic or sorcery in my OL. And I was curious, but I sensed fear there. And again, I sense it's a co-creation. And I've got this S7. S7 is like what you hear or what you here during the session, and I've heard child crying sounds and jiggles like in a horror movie when you have these moments with these kinds of ideas. Again, my life form inside, entrapped, it felt old, ethereal. The energetic felt misty cloud and cold, although powerful. And it was a dark essence of a being, like something very, very negative. Yes, you can scroll down. Thank you. When I moved to the context of the target and the background, I sense there are life form there, humans, male, a group of male, where they were gathered together around or for the same goal, studying, researching, concluding, and they're around 30 to 50 years old, casual suits around the table, talking. Prevalent color of the clothes was dark, and they had the same endeavor for all, probably 7-8 individuals, planning, attribution, protection with project manager. And when I described the main goal, I think at this point I drifted away a little bit. It felt like really esoteric and hard to pin down, because it was like an invisible, energetic, and also intelligent, which was hiding, mimicking, and mirroring. And then I needed to call it it. And I already decode why I needed that to call it an intelligent technology. But the intelligent technology is not coming from it. It's like an it. It's a being and a thing at the same time. And it has particle and wave kind of vibe to all together. It's an observer and observing idea involving this. It's adjusting, adapting, and planning. And it is like acting inside a mirror sphere. So if you think of a mirror which was spherical and you're inside, can you imagine how can you see inside your image inside this mirror sphere? That was my idea of being so elusive and so hard to pin down. What is it? I felt dazzled, but the people there were super curious but disarmed. It was like a hide and seek kind of play for kids. And I'm trying to resume my idea of wave and the particle at the same time. Up there is the wave representation, and down there is kind of the particle representation. And it reminded me of the Aladdin's lamp, when something is materializing sudden from a thought, from an idea, or from a command. But this thing can also morph into a physical material thing, as I said, but can be also unobserved, can be observed, and it is particulated. It is particulated material. I meant. And then I get my S5 when we try to decode our OLs, and my idea was that it's something what means entrapped. It's confined, it's prisoner, or cannot longer be traveling. And then it was something co-created from a biological, like an organism and a parasite, like groups coming together to brainstorming, doing project, or like a truth and the light to all together and creating a fear-mongering. And I think all that's for my session, my first session.
Yeah, then we did a retask.
Yes.
And I sent you back to look at a couple of things.
I tried to look again to what meant for me in my session the invisible part,
yeah.
And what was the aura associated to the life form, and the sense of a life form which was expired for me when I see, like a month ago. For me, it felt it was expired, and the others around were alive. This life was inside of an energy bubble. It had to make a long way from its start point to get here. I have now like 10 little sniggers from, I don't know, the book from the English author, when
Oh, like
they are
hobbits?
vanished one by one,
Oh,
a crime policia type of movie or roman or novel. When it's a crime there, and one by one the people there in the scenery are getting vanished one by one. So I thought that at some point there are more than one, but only one remained in the final time. It was warm, hot outside, but it was like desert-like environment. It felt well. I sense that the life form had to travel a long way to get somewhere. And when I try to describe the life confined where, it felt like it was in relationship with other life form. It was attached somehow in a way, so like communicated with somebody or something else. It felt like the life as an expression of someone else, as emerging, being born out from a discrepancies in energy between two states. I think it was so complicated for me. I tried to explain in my words and in my understanding of physics. So like discrepancies in energy between two states as a response to emotional states and actions. It feels as if it is made of flaming energy, but non-visible in an usual way.
So, Dimi, because you keep going on about the wave and particle and the different states, are you trying to say that the life form was physical and non-physical at the same time?
Yes, that was my idea of materializing and then being somehow invisible, at least not for us, not for our physicals today. So
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
something like this.
This is just some stage 2 stuff. We'll skip the stage 2 stuff. Stage 2 for people is just when the viewer describes bits about the target using their senses like smell, taste, touch, that kind of thing. It's usually pretty basic stuff here. Although
Yes.
you did get some good stuff here under subspace, didn't you?
Yes, because I've got this sensation that is a predetermined space, which is the area where the life form is concealed or entrapped, like a maze or a labyrinth type of a structure of space. It feels underground, stony, with lots of long and convoluted hallways, and it cannot escape from there. My sense was that it was locked down through the means of microwaves, like when you keep the cattle scene with the electric fences. So this kind of idea of being something being entrapped through meanings that are more powerful, not only electricity or something like that.
So
Okay.
with this data, then you're essentially, I think, me and Sean discussed this. We think you're describing the facility that the being was taken to. Some kind of storage place. And because you had desert earlier, we were thinking that this might be, one of the US facilities that are in one of the desert-y type locations.
It could be. I don't know. I didn't have, when I did my location, I think I drifted off, but I don't know. I didn't sense a specific country or a specific group or something like this. So I didn't know how to pin down this.
Yeah.
What country, what kind of, I don't know. I didn't know at that time. So at some point I've seen a device which was something that was controlling or following the energy inside the labyrinth, the energy and the life form. I'm talking about the energy, but the life form was also for me like a ball of energy. So it was like something was perceiving the energy, and it was moving this right to left to the presence of the life form being energetic. Of course, I draw my idea of what was there, like a labyrinth type. And when you look at the screen, and when you have something with a tag attached, with something put on it, and you can follow up and you can control it, you can see it's moving through a space. I don't know much more about that, but I that was my idea of that being or that life form or that it can be seen in a confined space through a device, and where it is at some point. Of course, at some point, my life form became humanoid and energetic, but also chameleonic, because it was proteic, like protoform, can take absolutely any form, can mimic absolutely anything around. It has fluctuations of energy. It felt like an octopus, like trying to have many elements and dendrite type of extremities. I felt sorry for this at some point, and I felt it was anguish and agitated. It says it be disoriented, sorry, in a chaotic motion, tired, revengeful, like trying to get into the grip, but without result. It was inside an energetic and powerful grid, as I explained before, which was activated 24/7, and adjusted to a certain frequency. And this is the main way of keeping the life form entrapped in this area. This method is acting, as I said before, like an electric charge fence for animals. Although the life form has a cloaking ability, the energy fences around are keeping the life form concealed to that space. I don't know. Okay, I have more. So it was a moving energy, moving life form. I have now as a changing DNA. I'm sorry I didn't probe much for that, but I did go on some places. So this life, for me, can change into something else by mimicking surroundings, and also by using past memory to do so. It feels like a powerful tool, a co-creation, a creation with kind of a self-awareness, but with a personal agenda, a living tool. Its drive is pre-programmed. Its tasks are its main engine for its behavior. Its manner seems deceiving and trying to escape from its current location in order to fulfill its task. It can be a blob, a GUI, a substance, a flesh being, an energy, everything. Its ability are not influenced by the energetic prison where it is concealed. Feels like an almighty being, energetic, but which cannot escape from there. And then when I went more on that, it felt like this thing was ended there from a booby trap. I don't know if I wrote correctly there. It was attracted like bear to honey, and the intelligence that decided and did that knew a lot from its prior activities, so they made a trap for it. And I've got an OL as a nuclear facility, and we know that these entities or these events are a lot around the nuclear facilities.
Actually, that's really important to point out, that in the same view that you had as you were perceiving a trap, the very first idea that came into your head, even if it was an AOL, was a nuclear facility.
Yes. And it doesn't have something prior to that make me to take this conclusion, that it was coming like sudden on that. Can you scroll down, please?
Yep.
And okay, so this is really interesting, because I was talking about the visibility aspect of this, and that was its capability of transforming into anything in relationship with an ultra microscopic, probably nanotech. Each element component, I don't know if you understand me, but I'm trying. Each component is fractal, kind of fractal, meaning it can act by itself. The entire gathering of its elements is the alleged life form, which is alive but created with a mind of its own and driven by its purposes. It's like a huge giant mix of the same elements. Each one has the entire program in it. The close resemblance is a show of drones which are impersonating different characters on the sky, but they all have the same upload. I couldn't go more from of that because I couldn't explain. It was really complicated, and I felt the nano thing. It's even bigger because it was even smaller than the nano kind of scale here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So if anyone's ever seen the movie The Thing, right? It's the same kind of concept, except that was all biological, right? It was each cell was its own living entity, and then it would combine with other cells to basically mimic. It was like a mimic, where it had like a reservoir of entities that it had basically absorbed. Now I don't think you're saying that here, but it's almost like each nanoparticle or whatever it is, a nanite, has the entire memory of the whole. Right?
Exactly what I felt. It's exactly what I felt, and I didn't watch this movie, so it's okay for me.
Yeah, you should watch the movie afterwards. It's a science fiction horror movie. It's actually pretty horrifying and pretty gross, but it's probably the best science fiction horror movie of all time. It was, I think, done in like 1983 is when it came out. It's a John Carpenter movie. But anyway, this has a very similar vibe. Maybe not as menacing, and this is more technological. It's more of a kind of a nanite sort of created now entity. Now, the question I actually have for you as we're going through this, did you get a sense that this was the pilot, the craft, or the pilot was just an extension of these nanites that
I didn't have the
form?
craft. I have to be honest. I didn't have the craft. I think I jumped to the life form.
Okay, so you had the pilot.
Yeah, or whatever it is there, or what was, I don't know. This felt so complex. It felt like can be free beings, can be one being, can be free beings, can be three things.
It's like trillions of self-organizing nanites that can
be
self-organize.
Anything.
Right.
Absolutely anything. So this is what I trying to draw here. I was trying to draw here and to explain. So I think that's all. I don't know if I have more. No, this is what I've said before.
Yeah.
The explanation of yes, I don't know if.
But you are saying things here in a bit more detail. Like you feel it's an all-purpose robotic AI.
Yes, my idea was that it was something in between life form and robotic.
You say here it can mimic and camouflage the surroundings or transform into a being or animal or whatever with all characteristics.
And
you say
purpose,
here its purpose is to gather and collect data.
Exactly. That was my idea. I think
so just
Coral's idea was the same.
Yeah, just imagine if there is some sort of synthetic organism that's out there that can literally mimic anything. And, in order to collect intelligence, it could be in the population, could be people that you see on the street. It could be animals that you observe, birds, etc. It could explain why a particular animal might behave differently than it normally would, right? Like the owl that landed in my backyard and just allowed me to approach it. Just like really weird things that you have with, and that's not to say that that's what that was. It could, sometimes an owl is just an owl.
We don't know. Yes, exactly.
But we do in like UAP and UFO lore, when people are talking about abduction experiences and stuff, they very often talk about life forms that can, they can become non-physical and move through walls and windows and do all that kind of stuff. And there are all these kind of things where there are screen memories, which are owls and stuff like that. Who's to say they're not actually transforming into these physical forms as well?
Yeah, because I mean, people have I have pictures. It's not like the pictures
Yeah.
I have are now, right?
Yeah.
But let's at this point before we go into Susan's, let's give folks a chance to ask Dimi some questions about this. I think there's already 2 in the queue, so
Okay. Yep.
let's allow folks to post some questions, and I'll post the first 2. So Dimi, I'm going to put you up on the screen and let
Okay.
people ask some questions. So here's the first one. So why do you think this is from Ian McFadden? Why do you think this entity was here on Earth?
So 2 points. It was gathering and collecting data, and as long as data was keep coming, its memory and its the way of behaving was different as data was gathering on and on and on. And the second thing is that it wasn't like felt like it was entrapped, like in a booby trap, felt sudden back time. I didn't know when it happened, but so collecting and gathering data is my main point here. Observing, and that's what was coming from my session and my perceptions.
Okay, here's the next question. What was the most memorable aspect of the target for you?
That was the most amazing thing, was that I couldn't explain the nanoscale of the elements which were gathered in that thing, in that entity. And when I tried to go to the inner thing, what was happening there, it became so complex. I didn't know what to do with that, and I couldn't understand the chemical, the electricity, or the atomic aspect or the subatomic aspect, because it was more and more and more at a nanoscale, at an ultra nanoscale that I know from chemistry or from physics or from whatever. So for me, it was very interesting. And the idea that all the elements was like fractals, having their own memory, and also each element has its own memory, but is the same with the all others and can organize itself. And for me, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. I never got this anything like this in any other session regarding this kind of entities or beings or whatever it might be.
Well, when you're talking about the nanoscale, you're also talking about kind of at the atomic level, individual atoms
Subatomic
organizing.
level. My idea was
Subatomic, so
subatomic level.
quarks.
Yeah.
So quarks organizing, self-organizing, which would also explain why you're seeing this particle and wave-like duality in this particular session.
I didn't think that way, but you're right. Yes. No, you're right. Exactly. I went there where all this phenomenon is explainable. At this scale, it's explainable. So yes, really interesting. Yeah.
And then this
Probably
is
yes.
kind of, if anybody else has any questions, please put them down in the comments section so we can ask. I actually have another question that I wanted to ask you, and that's relating to you earlier on, you had this notion of a thought form.
Yes, really, really early. I think I couldn't say exactly what it was because it felt energetic, but also it felt like with a mind of its own, and hard to pin down and invisible also. It's like I also said it was really impressed by the energy emotion of the other beings around it. So it's kind of an amalgam of being itself and being impersonated from the emotions of the surroundings of whatever beings are there. I thought there are humans, or I don't know. Maybe they call them, maybe they thought of them like a CE5 type of calling, and these things got there. I don't know. I really don't know more than that. I didn't
Okay.
try more than that to see.
Yeah, well, this is a really strange interpretation, but it may have gotten. So I did a later interview, it hasn't appeared yet, with Tom Montauk, and we talked about thought forms and egregores, tulpas, and things like that. And one of the concepts that we explored was that with like a European football team, right? There's so much emotion and energy that's focused on those things that the team actually may have like a thought form or an egregore that's associated with it, that's conjured into existence by the collective desire for that team to win. The second part of that we explored is that sometimes when there's a movement, like a movement for disclosure in the UFO community, for instance, there's this drive, this desire for the truth. And sometimes, and this is really speculating, with like a YouTube channel like this one, when there's collective energy that's put into understanding and trying to get to the truth of reality, with remote viewing, with psychic phenomena, with NHI. Sometimes what you may have picked up is that you were doing this particular exercise for a channel, right? For, like a YouTube channel, and that there may be kind of a thought form that's associated with this channel. I'm not saying there is, it's just a theory that's put out there, but the collective energy of people trying to get to the truth. And, that's kind of, it may have kind of an energy of its own that's associated with that. So anyway, that's just a random theory. It may have been not only dealt with the target, but also dealt with the source of where the target was coming from, or the desire to observe that target. Anyway, I don't know. That it could be a crazy theory. It could be, we could be onto something. I don't know. Just speculating.
Sean, it's definitely a reality, and I say this because for the last 12 months, I work in a company that called Future Forecasting, and we look at cryptocurrencies. And for the past 12 months, I've been developing a technique where, cryptocurrencies generally don't exist. They're like digital assets that are made out of zeros and ones code. But I've developed a process when I'm trying to get data on a cryptocurrency, where I move to the consciousness of the crypto. So I'm assuming that the crypto has a consciousness that's made up from all the faults of the people that are holding it and want it to succeed or want it to fail. And I actually do get really accurate data from talking to the consciousness of a crypto. So it's along the very same lines as what you're talking about. And, that's leading me to kind of think that if that happens for cryptos, then it's a possibility that anything in the universe that has an interaction with humans or sentient beings could then generate its own consciousness.
Well, Daz, that's what money is. The only reason money works is because people believe that it works.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's there's nothing. We used to have gold that would back up the dollar. That's not what backs up the dollar. It's literally the belief that it has value, and the belief that it, and I don't want to cause like a panpsychic collapse of the US dollar, but
it's happening anyway.
Well,
slowly.
I mean, that's let's not put that out into the universe, and this but a lot of it is the belief that it's the reserve currency, right? And the fact that there's really not a good substitute is kind of the only reason, in my opinion, it's still, kind of maintaining its strength, right? It's, I think, what is it? Churchill said, like, all democracies are terrible, but the only they're better than everything else, right? something like that. I completely misquoted them, but there's something like that. But anyway, I just wanted to introduce that concept because I don't know the answer. So let's go to the next remote viewer.
Okay, we're gonna. As I said, I had to skip David and Josh, but they had very similar data as well. And if everyone agrees, we can release the entire file from this for any of your listeners and viewers to download the whole file. And they can look on their own. So we're going to move to Susan's data now. That's just the tasking, and here we are on page 1.
Okay,
Susan, if you want to run through this a little bit.
Sure. I think I initially was picking up probably more on the event of what happened. So initially I've got the land, which is rough and grey and gravelly. What did I get? The space there, it was like a kind of a delineation of an area, like a defining of an area. The man-made, which was rigid, grey, hollow, dark interior. It felt like a structure. And the first motion energy, which was a dynamic sideways movement to a forward outwards motion and kind of in a fast acceleration away. To the next space here actually felt like space, that I was in space. I had an AOL of space. And then I first saw the life. And it's interesting because the way, initially I just got the fact that it was a singular life. And every time I was trying to tap into the life, all I could see was like this radiance. Ultimately it tended to like this humanoid radiant form, but that I was kind of perceiving it more like energetically rather than an actual form. So then I had more motion energy, which was light and energetic, and the idea of hovering, and then like a curving motion to traveling away again. Motion energy that felt kind of distant, and that's something that was moving away in the distance and ascending and disappearing. And then it's just some stage 2 data.
Yeah.
If you want to, just was saying that I was dealing with a structure and a life and something in motion and.
Yeah, just general sensory data again there.
Yeah. And just a quick drawing, it felt like it was a life in motion going into the distance. So then I went back to the land, which was the land I was at was like really grey, really gravelly. There were crunching sounds. I was AOLing on crunchy sounds under boots walking on this gravelly surface. And I started seeing multiple bios that were male. And at this point, it felt like it was nighttime. It was dark skies with some luminosity. And there was the idea of an artificial light source, harsh lights. And then it was the idea of like floodlights, like an area suddenly being lit really brightly with intense white light. And then I can't really see the top of that, but I think there was a space here, and I felt like I was designating an area on a map that was of interest. Then I moved to the man-made, which was this large metallic structure. It felt like a huge kind of metallic piping structure, and it was really heavy, and it kind of felt like it was in or on the earth, but it actually felt like it was in the earth at this point. It was just that one. And then I moved back to the motion energy, and it was kind of weird because it started feeling like it was a swaying movement, then it became kind of laboured and very definite, like 3 definite movements, and it felt rhythmical and repetitive. And I realised as I was kind of feeling into it, it was almost like I was drawing an infinity symbol with an upwards vertical at the end, and each movement, like the sideways ones, had a specific tone with each movement, which was the same, repeated, and then the vertical movement had a tone which was higher. I'm not sure what any of that means, but that was what came there. Yeah. Oh, where am I? Then I can't see the top of my page. I think it was on space here again. It was dark, spacious, and then it felt like I was in space, and then also the idea of being within contained space in space. I moved back to the life, and again, it felt singular, and this is all I was kind of getting. It was like there was a luminous aspect. It felt like it was glowing. There was a phosphorescence to it. It felt male. It was kind of a yellowy green for me, and it was kind of against a dark environment or within a dark environment. Then I moved to the motion energy again, and it was just gently curving, moving outwards and away, a kind of a sweeping motion to moving away from where I was viewing it. And then the kind of the motion in the distance, ascending and disappearing. So now I tried to move to a significant aspect of the target, and I hit on multiple bios. They were uniformed, and I got a flash on an armband And what I saw was like red and white, which I think technically would be like a red cross. I don't know whether that was kind of alluding to maybe there was a medical presence there as well within these uniformed buyers. But there were buyers that were in action, and yeah, they were in uniforms on the move. Then I moved to the actual target, and then it was the sensation of these buyers getting into a vehicle. It was kind of a truck type thing. And then I felt like I was amongst these buyers being driven over like really rough terrain. And they were being moved somewhere in particular. And at this point, it felt like it was daytime and it was daylight. Then it was a sense of the buyers disembarking. I literally saw boots running on the ground. It felt like there were weapons present, and that was a sense that they were surrounding something. And I actually heard like laying in wait. And so it was a sense of even buyers actually lying on the ground waiting, that they were concealed. It was like they were waiting for something to come into a specific area. They were really waiting still and focused. It was almost like they were under like an order to hold.
Yeah, which is interesting because as one of the interviewers, I think it was Dimi, said that they felt that it was like a booby trap, or that they'd been lured to a place. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were like, I had this thing, they were laying in wait, like they were there
Yeah.
ready and waiting for something to enter that they would respond to. Yeah.
So then we did a retask. Told you to move to the man-made and describe, and then move to the life and describe again, and also try to sketch the life.
Yeah. So that's reconnecting with the target. The first, what did I have? Oh, the first one had unknown. It looked like land, but it was actually the idea of an opposing force. You do the next page. It was an opposing force, something slow, being slowed down because of an opposing force, and ultimately it was like something grinding to the halt against the earth. Of which the man-made that was connected to it, and it felt hollow. It felt like a container. It was metallic-ish. It was silver grey, and it didn't feel very heavy, and it felt kind of lightweight and had a shell-like structure. Then I went to the next man-made, and that kind of felt like I was just within contained space, which was really low light. It was within a structure. And then I went to the next one, which I called unknown, but I thought it was life. And again, when I was experiencing the life, it was energetic, and it felt singular, but there was a lightness to it and an energetics to it. And I actually perceived it as feeling nice. I didn't actually feel any nastiness or anything bad from this energy at all. Then I moved to the man-made that I was retasked with, and that's this large metallic, it was kind of like a large piping type structure that was really heavy. And then I was getting more of a sense that it was on the ground, but that it was actually going into the ground. It's like this kind of opening going into the earth is what I was getting. Then I tried to move to the center of the man-made, and I found myself in an internal dark space with like a wall of screens. And there were the luminous screens with buyers inside, and I got an AOL, like it was like maps on the screen. And there were buyers within the space going about doing duties and work, and they were uniformed. I tried to go above the target to see, and I found myself in this landscape, which was rugged terrain. There was vegetation in parts, but like not like trees. It was all low-lying vegetation. It was a real kind of rocky wilderness feel, kind of mountainous. It was remote with an expansive natural vista, and it was cold. And then I AOL'd on a doorway or an entrance going into the mountainous area. And the area was like very pale, and it had low-growing vegetation. And then I kept getting this word referring to like a prominent feature, which was these small stony areas, which was scree. And it's one of those things that I didn't even know I knew the word scree, but that was what I kept seeing. And it was like this very grey mountainous thing. So it was remote. And it felt, I AOL'd on that it was kind of Nepal-ish or Himalayas-ish. It had that kind of look, but I knew I wasn't in Nepal or the Himalayas. Then I moved to an important aspect of the actual man-made, and that was the buyers within the dark internal space. And it felt like an organisation. It felt official, but kind of unofficially official. There were protocols, there were uniforms, and there were formal procedures, and it was males. And it was a hierarchical organisation with people following orders. And I kept seeing there was one kind of prominent male standing up that had very militaristic, military vibe to him. Then I moved to the actual man-made, and I tried to find like, what is it? And it was a structured internal space surrounded by density, and it felt like it was in the mountain. And it was the structures with the buyers inside performing their duties, and it felt clandestine and out of sight, or out of view. And then I tried to find the where again, and I was in this mountainous high altitude environment with the scree, with the low growing, it was like scrub-like vegetation. I was kind of getting some yellow plant life. It's cold, it's remote. And, you know, the vast, I'm still in that space. I wasn't going anywhere else. That was the landscape I was in. The actual man-made, I tried to find why. It felt operational. It was operated out of sight. And it was a sense that the area that I was in was to do with monitoring areas. It felt like it was part of a larger organization. And these were the premises for this particular part. And there was procedural activities happening with the bios working there. And then I moved to the actual man-made, like the WHO. And again, all I was getting was this structured organization. It felt militaristic. It felt behind the scenes. It was very organized, and there were different levels of organization, and it was focus controlled and efficient and protocols. Then I tried to view the life. And again, I find it kind of frustrating because I kept getting this light, energetic presence. It was singular and energetic. And then I got the weird thing, because when I first keyed into it, it originally felt, the energetics felt really nice and kind of vibrant. And now when I was keying into it, it kind of felt like it was fading. And I had an AOL of a light dimming and going out. And it felt like something was diminished. And it actually made me feel sad. And there was sadness around this. And it felt like it was going towards a death process, is what I felt like. So then I tried to go back to life to see if I could get more on it. But again, it was just this luminescence, this radiance, this glowing. I could, you know, that's kind of what I was saying with it. And I tried to describe the where, but again, I just kept getting this radiant form, and it was glowing against a black background, or it was within a black area or a dark area. So I don't know whether it was enclosed within a dark space, and the only way I could perceive it was this kind of energetic form. And at one point it looked like it was looking down, maybe towards me, like it was observing from above, and then it was kind of fleeting. I was trying to get the WHO. Again, it was a singular, radiant, luminous form. And it was definitely, the way I was seeing it, was a humanoid form that was glowing. And then I was kind of getting the sense that it could potentially have some kind of body covering. It wasn't kind of clear. It was just the idea that there was like a head, maybe headwear and a suit or some kind of covering. And then I tried to move to the actual location again. I got the same mountainous environment, and this time I had a flash on very specific, like alpine flowers that were purple and yellow. And then I tried Daz's method to try and locate a spot on the map for the first time. And I wound up in a segment that contained Iceland. But that's the first time I've tried that map, so I don't know all that process.
Yeah, it was a good effort. I think that's the end of it for the RV sessions.
Yep, that's it.
Great data, guys.
Yeah. So what do you all? How do you all think that progressed? It's pretty amazing that you all had very similar answers.
It seems like a single pilot, doesn't it? Very more energetic than physical in all the RV sessions as well. And I think everyone picked up on the retrieval team as well in some aspects, and maybe even the facility. I like Dimi's explanation of some kind of microwave containment. That's interesting. I'd like to see if I could find some extra details on that in the UFO lore that's out there. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some interesting overlaps. Dimi was talking about frequencies, and I was talking about he was doing something really dangerous, like an experiment in frequencies. I also had a looking glass, and I think Dimi had that too. You had a mirror, a looking glass.
Yes, I was. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And then Susan had tunnels go inside a mountain. I even drew the mountain, and I had all the drawing of the tunnels and the different levels and that kind of thing. It's been hidden for sure in a mountain.
The people are still fascinated with this question. So if any of you, I know we already answered one, but I don't think we asked everybody. Have any of you ever had something or someone look back at you while you're doing your remote viewing session? What happens? When that happens, what do you do?
Can I start?
Yeah,
Yes,
you go.
Go on,
absolutely.
Dimi.
The only time when I've got this kind of phenomenon happening to me was during a session when I view something which materialize in my session as an alien, and it felt friendly, kind of, because I never felt nasty ever after my sessions, but I also am very careful about it. But I was so curious, so I decided to go with the flow of the session. And then I've asked that thing, being, or whatever, to get me, whatever it get me, to understand what was happening in the session. And the next, not second, a millisecond or something like this, I was in a vortex. I really was in a vortex, going like in a wormhole type of transportation to somewhere else. I really don't recall the exact session where it was happening. I can look for it for the future, but it was getting me there where to look to the target much better than where I was trying to have a kind of a dialogue, me and that thing around it. So it was amazing. It was the most amazing feel and idea that happened into a session, that something was um, uh, aware of me being there and was helping me to get to my desire about the target, not because I am always careful of what I'm asking for. So, yes, that was my experience.
I have I was trained by Lynn Buchanan, and in one of the very first targets he ever gave me, I was going, "Oh, I shouldn't be here," and it was a picture of a shaman in the middle of a river in South America. Somehow he didn't want to be interfered with. It was very funny. But as Dimi says, if you do notice, or you can hear like a voice, like a silent knowing that, something's communicating with you, then you can open a discussion, and you can say, well, I'm only just here to find out, is there anything I need to know? Can you tell me something? I think we all do it. Yeah.
I've had two experiences in all the years I've done this. The first one was an ad hoc, not entirely RV, but half RV. Look at Area 51, and I was attacked by a predatory grey alien type thing that moved a bit like a lion, and that jumped off a table. And as it ran towards me, I literally nearly ran out of the house. It was like, whoa, that's it. No more remote viewing for me today. The second time, I did a target for my mum because she was a psychic, and she asked me to look at a house. I didn't know this at the time, but it was to look at a house that she was, because she did lots of energy work, helping people with bad spirits and stuff like that. So she wanted me to have a look at the house to see what had happened there. And I was RVing it, and I just felt like there was something in the basement. So I moved my consciousness to the basement of this house. I saw huge amounts of naked people all having like black magic kind of sex in a huge mass orgy, and I kind of moved my kind of consciousness to the top right hand corner of the room, right up near the ceiling, as a little ball of light. And I was just having a look around, as you do when you're seeing people in an orgy, and all of a sudden, every single person in the room stopped, and they all stared right at me where I imagine my presence was. And that was another RV session that I instantly got out and never went back to. I found out feedback from my mother later that the house was allegedly a place where the famous black magician Aleister Crowley used to hold some of his goings on. So that's my only two encounters with something that saw me.
Well, that was rough. Your mother sending you to spy on Aleister Crowley.
what messes my head even more, I did that target, it must have been early 2000s, let's say 2004, but the actual event that I must have been viewing must have been 100 years before that. So, you know, they'd actually seen me do that in the past, 100 years before I'd actually done it with remote viewing, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy. Why do you
Yeah.
think what were you observing that the gray or the, you know, ET showed up?
Well, I was moving through a tunnel system of Area 51 through not tunnels, yeah, tunnels, like alleyway kind of tunnel system, and ended up coming into a big room, and they had this metal table at a 45-degree angle, and there was a grey alien led on this table at a 45-degree angle. So I just decided again, stupidly, to move my consciousness closer to it, but as I did, it kind of woke up. And it shocked me because, you know, I've done lots of UAP research, and you hear all this stuff about, you know, the grey aliens kind of walk slowly, kind of clumsily, robotically. This didn't. You know, like the alien films, you know, with the jaw like thingy. It moved like that. It like jumped up on all fours and then bounced off the wall towards me, and that was it. That was like, oh, I'm out here. You know, stop. That was. I never went back to that one again.
Susan, did you have any experiences like that?
Not yet. No. I've had a bit like dream states and kind of lucid dreams and stuff, but not in RV. No.
Okay. Anyone from the audience? Do you have any questions? It's actually been a little quiet down there in the last few minutes. Well, while we wait for questions, what did you all think about this target?
Fine. I think, I thought it was absolutely fine. You know, you don't always get a chance to view such interesting things. So there was a real pleasure to actually get into. But I mean, it's curious. Somebody was saying before, it would be really nice if we did get feedback eventually, to see, because, you know, I had the sense that he was definitely doing something, whether he should have been doing it or not, but it was really wild. In fact, at one stage in my session, I said, I don't know if it was for the good, we'll know in 24 years. It's like, so he really, you know, this is something really interesting. There's something going on that's I hope we get evolved enough to actually understand what they're doing, what it was.
Well, I think everyone, at least where the crash site was, not where it went subsequently, but at least where the crash site was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Daz, a lot of it described like a very cold, wintry environment.
Yeah.
And if you'll recall, there were 3 events that happened, I believe, maybe it was in 2023, kind of in early 2023, when it was first the Chinese spy balloon.
The Alaska thing.
Yeah. So there were kind of 3 incidents. I think 2 were explained, right? One was clearly the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down over the US East Coast. But there was a shoot down in Canada and over Western Canada. And there was another one that was near Dead Horse or Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. The events that you described correlate most closely to the shoot down over Dead Horse, Alaska, which to this day, the government has never explained what they shot down or they recovered. I'm not saying that's what it was, but it seems to correlate nicely, given that may have been the latest incident.
Yeah, that's what we thought when we were talking. Me and Sean were talking about, you know, all your data, analyzing your maps that you drew and stuff like that, and knowing, you know, what we'd seen in the press and stuff. It just, we can't know for certain at this point, but that's what it feels like to us data wise. Yeah.
All right, here's a crazy question. I don't know if any of you want to answer this. Have any of you remote viewed giants? I imagine, you know, another species on Earth of very large human-like creatures?
Personally, not yet. No, it's not come up in any of mine that I recall.
Anyone else?
I
No,
don't think
but
so.
you know,
No.
some of these aliens they definitely are larger than humans.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, this is an
So,
interesting question.
great
So,
question.
yeah, Bruno is asking, I'm just going to repeat his question. I'm curious as to whether RV impacts awareness of these things in everyday life, i.e., does it trigger events or unwanted attention?
Do you guys want to answer that one?
Well, RV made me more organized and made me more close to be aware of what's happening to me inside and outside, and like in a dialogue with myself or trying to understand what's happening to myself, and little signs that you cannot see or you remember afterwards are popping now, and you can see them in front of your eyes or happening into your life. So like signs for what should I have to do now, what is better for me, and so on. These kind of things happened in my life, and for sure remote viewing does this for me still.
Daz?
Oh, where to start with this one? It depends on the individual, I would say, and your psychological makeup, and your training as well. If you've had classical training and you know how to maybe psychically defend yourself and you're of a sound mind, you usually end up being okay. But if you're missing any of those, if you're missing any training, past or future or even present, and you may have I just have to be honest, psychological issues. It could be related to anything in your past, that may affect you in any way mentally. There is a very strong possibility that what we now know as the hitchhiker effect, that the paranormal effects can affect you, follow you home, and can then affect and infiltrate and spread to, with a viral type effect, to your family members and friends. We have to be honest, that kind of thing does exist out there, but it's individualistic, and that not, good and bad things don't happen to everyone. It's individual to the person and what they're going through in their life and their psychological makeup. But there is that possibility.
Coral, anything for you?
So I'm a practicing chaos magician, and I also do, divination, tarot readings, and things like that. But I think that my classical remote viewing training, I was trained by Lynn Buchanan. I think that gave me like a huge step up. And in my training, I call it the 4 gifts, because you get your life is enhanced. You get other gifts. Your perception is much more finely attuned. You're more aware. You're more conscious. You're more connected. So there's a big change. And of course, if you practice magic, you have to meditate. If you remote view, you meditate. All of that things. It raises your consciousness. So yeah.
Susan, how about you?
Yeah, I find like it's the increasing of awareness and perception, personally, and also even like in creative pursuits too, like taking it into art and stuff. I've become much more sensitive to things, and also what I particularly like with the remote viewing, doing this kind of work, is a real setting of the boundaries within the work too, because you start your session and you end your session, and whether stuff happens outside or whatever, you can be much more disciplined with yourself and an awareness too of like if something's happening outside when you're when you're not actually wanting to be communicating with whatever. It's a much more awareness of that, and tools to kind of maybe set your boundaries and be a lot stricter with your own psychic space, maybe. Yeah.
All right, here's the next question. All right, so Daz, what's the worst you think would have happened if you would have stayed there with the alien? Do you ask for protection before doing sessions from guides?
I don't ask for protection because the approach I was taught, which was CRV, is and the specific brand of CRV I was taught is quite straight laced, and the moment I write, and you can see at the end of each RV session I do, I always write the word "end," and I underline it. It's like, and that for me is like no more, nothing can follow me. That's it. Is the end. Everything's 100% cut off, and because I believe that implicitly, that seems to be the case for me. But what would have happened? I don't know. I really don't know. With the alien thing, I'm happy to do any other target that involves men and humans because their limitations. You know what to expect. I think we all have to be slightly more wary of non-human beings if we're encountering them, because we have to be honest, we just don't know what their capabilities are. And look at the data from that these great remote viewers brought back on this, luminescent, non-physical being. If it can do the things that they were describing, then that's way, way, way more advanced than we can do. So yeah, I don't know what would have happened, to be honest. And I'm pretty glad I didn't find out, I think.
All right, next question. Has anyone remote viewed life on our moon?
I think I don't know about Susan, because I don't know if she's is experienced the rest of us, but I think probably Carl, Dimi, and myself have all been targeted against the moon. Have you been targeted against the moon, Susan?
You've actually done that, and it was more so picking up structures on the moon is what I got. It was that I didn't go to life, but I definitely got structures. Yeah.
Pretty much every remote viewer I know, and I've seen hundreds of remote viewing sessions on the moon and on Mars. Pretty much every remote viewer going back 40 plus years, and I don't collect moon ones so much, but I do collect remote viewing sessions on Mars, and I have quite a few of them, and some go as far back as the top. Well, we know Ingo did it, and Pat Price. We know Joe McMoneagle did Moon and Mars. Tom McNair, Ingo's best student, have all their RV sessions in people that I've collected over the years, hundreds of them, as I say, and pretty much everyone picks up structures on both the moon and Mars. Not so much life on Mars right now, although a couple of people have. It's almost like that's abandoned or something. But there's a lot more non-human activity on the moon as well, structures.
Anyone else want to comment on the moon?
Okay. I targeted Jumpgate once. We had a practice group called Jumpgate. I targeted once, not on the moon, but on the planet X, the planet that was visible, becoming visible behind Pluto or something. And I just got all these sessions in about pyramids and structures and big cities. It was, and I couldn't do anything with it because I just wanted like a planet coming closer, and I had all these cities, so that was something else as well.
Yeah,
interesting. All right, next question. Do any of you have or do meditation to clear away any bad energy you all would have picked up that may have stayed with you?
Who wants to answer that one first? I do meditation before RV sometimes, but I only do that because, like most people out there, we have so much going on in our lives, so much noise, you've got to pay the rent, your kids are playing at schools, all that kind of stuff. So I don't do it so much nowadays, but when I was in my hardcore training phases, I used to spend 20 minutes before doing RV just to get rid of the noise, put it to one side, put it all in a suitcase and go back to it later, just to clear my mind for it. I've never done a meditation after RV to clear anything, because as I said, the moment I write end, for me, it's over. But I don't know if these ladies do anything different.
Free from
I'm
5 sessions. Sorry, go ahead, Alcor.
No, I meditate to meditate because I like meditating. But the structure, Daz said it, the structure that we use makes sure that we're protected. You work inside the structure, and we're pretty classical viewers, so that works. I mean, there's magical stuff you can do for protection as well, but
weirdly, I was trained in all the classical magical stuff that I did in my clairvoyance, mediumship, going out doing, old school classical stuff. But I was trained a different way of doing it with CRV. It's like none of that exists anymore. You're doing something totally different. It can't happen, and it's weird. I don't need to do any of that self-defense stuff with the CRV because I'm in the mindset of, okay, it works this way. Nothing can attack me. Once I put end, I'm out of there. It's all over with. So I've managed to separate the two different modalities of how this works, which is weird. I don't know if anyone else does that, but that's the way it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the magical protection is also human energies, jealousies, things like that. So it's a different thing.
So I do meditation for those reasons, but also particularly for human energies, I find, and getting really protecting myself from those. But then also getting more sensitive for the RV. And I love that kind of energetic clearing out before starting. And what happened, I don't find it, I need it afterwards, or the once or twice I have was doing something that was actually associated with a woman being murdered, and it really physically impacted me. And what I found helped with that is I went and had an infrared sauna and just kind of got that out of my body that way. And that helped.
Dimi,
I'm still
did you
doing
want to?
3 from 5 session. I'm doing meditation prior to them. And I was never impacted in any way. And I can say that this is coming from Daz because I've set a mindset of my own that I'm not going to be harmed in any way. And I think it's already stay with me all the time. So it's like from Daz's teaching, and it's very powerful. So he said that, and I still believe that. And I think the belief it's a powerful tool to use for this.
Although I would say to carry on this discussion, my belief is slightly shaken a little bit.
Exactly.
In that I think it was about 18 months ago. I think Carl and Dimi both worked to target me. I was a project manager, and I set the Hellfire group a target of looking at the Havana syndrome, which is this weird thing that happens. It's been attacking people's brains and all this kind of stuff. US people that are working at embassies and that kind of stuff on foreign soil. So we did that as a target, and they got some absolutely amazing data on all this stuff that was being transmitted. And it was definitely some kind of proper attack. And then I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, because I don't believe in coincidences, but 3 months after working that target and putting that project out, I did end up getting very similar symptoms of the Havana effect, which is tinnitus, and I've had it now for 2 years and I can't get rid of it. So
yeah, I've got it too, but I tend to believe it's the 5G, but I have it as well.
Yeah, maybe it's a viewer thing. For me, it was just a weird coincidence. A few months after doing Havana, I then get tinnitus, and I've never had it. I never had a problem like that in my entire life.
So speaking of tinnitus, if you don't mind, did you ever get vertigo-like experiences, sensations while RVing?
When I'm crossing times and spaces, this is the vortex type of moving or whirling that's always happening to me. I'm kind of in a vortex, and then it's not necessarily a feeling that I'm feeling on my own. It's sometimes is a feeling that I know that it's a knowing. Sometimes it is a feeling, a slightly feeling of rolling, whirling like a vortex. But I did feel a lot of that when I'm moving through time and space, doing the targets, especially the esoteric one.
Anybody else have anything to add on that question?
Yeah. Well, you're using your body as a modem, so you are feeling things. Through your body, you're getting the sensations. I did a target not so long ago. It was a guy who died, and as I started writing, I was saying, "Oh, or this is LSD, or it's a near-death experience." And when he actually died, I fell back, and I started crying. So you do feel it, and then my tasker was saying, "Move to the present. Tell me about this biological." I'd been describing it to man, and I was saying, "Oh, he feels amazing." Then he was dead. So you do feel the things.
Yeah, I
Well,
find
that's
it
interesting.
very physical.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I get the physical sensations as well, and I've had that a few times where I've had biologicals that are dying, and the death process has actually felt really, really nice. It's been more of the transition into death and that kind of energetic feeling, and it's actually felt really nice.
Daz?
No, not at all. Not in RV. In classical stuff, yeah, maybe. But in RV for me, it's very clinical. I don't, if I don't hear anything or feel anything, it's just words that bubble up from inside me that I know are correct.
All right, here's another one for you, Daz. Did your remote viewing of the Kennedy assassination alter or shape your perspective on what happens after we die? You guys are like predicting the questions before you're answering them, before they come up.
A bit. I'm a bit weird with the whole life after death thing because I did train as a medium for a while. So you'd think that I would believe in life after death, but I'm still on the fence a little bit with it. I believe something happens. I just don't know exactly what. So it did help bolster my beliefs. And the person's referring to a video I did with Courtney Brang where it was the Kennedy assassination. I was working at Blind. I didn't know it was the Kennedy assassination. But halfway through the video, I saw that if someone was being shot. So I decided to follow that person to see where they went, and it ended up doing a whole video of me seeing this person meet its loved ones on the other side and all that kind of stuff. So it did increase my belief a bit more than I had. So I'm half on and half off the fence. I still don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because the information I got as a medium where I thought I was talking to a dead person, I can get the exact same information being a remote viewer, not talking to a dead person. So that's why I'm on the fence now. I don't know where to go with it.
All right, here's the next question. Have any of you remote viewed yourself in a past life? It's a great question. I don't know if that's a.
I've never ever done anything personal to myself in RV ever.
I went into a past life, but through quantum healing hypnotherapy from Dolores Cannon. And it was one of the most strange experiences, strange or quite out of natural, of course, that made me change my belief system a lot.
What was your past life experience? What did you see?
Well, I was a little boy, a 16 years old boy, um, who ended up somewhere in Spain as a slave for a person, selling things for that person who bought me from my family from Africa. I was a colored boy. And I experienced also my death, and I was beaten to death at 16 years old. And it was the most awful experience, but also the most enlightened experience for me, because it does explain things happening in my own current life. So it was an amazing experience for that. An awful experience at that time. I do recall that I was shaking and trembling, and of course, and I was sure that I'm not going to feel or to know anything. And I was not hypnotized as the usual way. I was present and aware of me being in the room also. So I was not asleep or something like this. So it was an interesting experience, yes, but not with RV.
Anybody else have a similar experience in or outside of RV?
Yeah, I've done the life between lives, the Michael Newton hypnosis, and that was because there you slip into like pure soul state between the lives, and I lived in bliss for 6 months afterwards. You go through the whole dying process and you remember it. You do the past lives and then you die, and so yeah, it was a totally amazing experience.
Interesting. All right, team. Any final words about this particular remote viewing experience, or advice for the audience?
Advice. Anyone can do this. So go out and find some resources and try it for yourself. That's the only way to be sure that we're telling the truth of all this is to try it for yourself, really. And anyone can do it to one degree or another. And I just want to say, thanks to Carl, Susan, Dimi, and to Sean for doing this project, and also to Josh and David who couldn't make it here tonight. Because everyone's putting in their work and time for free on this. Yeah, and it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to see what comes out in Lou Ellisondo's book in 3 days to see if he maybe mentions anything about the latest retrieval that's going on.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. It should definitely be pretty interesting. So thank you very much for taking time and sharing your talent with the audience in the show. And it'll be interesting to see if we get any attention from
It'll be
the
nice.
folks who are covering all this stuff up.
Exactly, yeah.
If they're smart, they won't, because it'll just indicate that we're right over target. But I appreciate it, and if I don't see you, have a great weekend, and it was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone, and
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
Sean, for inviting.
And thanks for the great questions, everyone, as well.
All right, thanks,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Breaking news.